He sent me a message earlier, so I'm gonna send him a message right now.
Okay. Hello, everyone. This is Crime and Coffee and Crimes Untangled. We're going live a little bit earlier due to the fact they are setting up the press conference. After the press conference, we are going to go back to a 2017 interview that was done with family members and go over that. I just thought I'd start early since the fact is they are setting up a press conference. We have nobody in here right now, but at least I'm getting that out.
Yeah.
All right.
All right.
Hi, Lee. Hello, my dear.
So, like I said, I did let Hugh know.
Okay, perfect. Thank you.
Okay.
Yes, I need to call Hugh and talk to him because I know he's not doing well.
So he contacted me this morning and asked about a live today, and I let him know it was going to be earlier today, and so hopefully he'll be on here. Sorry, I'm trying to, as we're doing this, I'm also still trying to set up
You're
my.
number one, Lee. Number one. I had to leave Patty's because I had a stream set up.
There we go. And I gotta mute that. It's muted. I'm sorry. I'm talking. I'm not trying to talk over you. I'm trying to talk. I'm just getting everything going. Okay, we're good. So it's all you know.
You're very loud.
That's what I was asking you earlier. Let me fix that.
It's like you're yelling at us.
Okay, no problem. Let me fix my settings. When I'm doing my gaming stuff, I have to turn it up a little bit. So let me. I will work on that. Am I loud now?
No, not as loud. No, you were though. You were yelling at us.
Okay. No, that's fine. I had to adjust a couple things because, like I said, when I'm gaming, it's different. Okay.
You should write it down on a piece of paper. Your settings for gaming and your settings for lives.
Yeah, you're right. I absolutely need to. I will. I've got my notebook right here. Because my son had told me, he's like, hey, Mom, I can't hear you. Like in my gaming ones, he's like, I can't hear you. So I had to adjust those.
Well, this will be an interesting press conference to actually see the family members. I like this better when comments are put up on the screen, just saying. I agree, Leah. That's why I usually do it. I know some you watch on your TV, I believe. I remember you telling me that before. And I try to remember to keep them up longer for you. Oh, there's some banging behind you, I think, or is it the press conference?
Is it just frozen?
That was my fault, sorry.
No.
And even better when you read them out, Rochelle. All right, Leah. I am trying. I definitely try. Sorry if I screw up here and there.
Sorry about that. I ran outside real quick to tell my son something before he left. And I slammed the door. That was my fault. Okay.
All right, here we go. I'll put myself back on screen.
Oh, look at Rochelle.
I am anxious for this press conference. I'm anxious. I wonder how far the prison is from where they are right now.
I think. Wait, do we know where they're at? Because I thought Donovan was in San Diego and they're in LA, which is not far. It's about 40 minutes, 30 minutes, depending on traffic.
I think they are in Donovan. Hold on one second.
Yeah, they're in Richard Donovan.
Yeah.
I know exactly where that is, but I think that press conference is being held in LA.
It is, yeah, at the
So
courthouse or something.
they're about 30 to 40 minutes depending on traffic, I believe.
I'm wondering if they're able to watch this.
Hmm.
I doubt it.
I know that they have access to certain things, but I don't know if they're allowed to watch news,
Maybe
like
their
this kind of
lawyers,
news.
unless their lawyers with them, and he's allowing
That's
them
true.
to.
That would be that would. Sorry. Yes, that would be a possibility. That's basically what I was trying to say, but I couldn't say.
We have 7 people watching. Join the chat. You might not agree with what's happening today or what might happen in the next couple weeks, but it's still important to watch. It's still important to have everybody's opinions.
I think it's an
Like
important conversation to have.
it is, and my opinion is it's a long time coming, and that's just my opinion.
You're not alone.
Nine people watching.
You make me nervous when you do the countdown or the count.
Where are we? So it looks like there's going to be 3, 4, 5 family members. There's 5 chairs,
There we go.
or
I
2
fixed that.
officials and 3 family members. I don't know.
I thought that I had read that there was going to be more of them, but that's okay.
I only see 5 chairs.
Well, not that they were all going to speak, but that they were all going to gather for it. So we'll see.
So people might start coming in now because I hadn't set for 3:55. That's okay if people don't come. I'm doing this because I believe in it. Hey, Bumble.
Hey, Bumble.
Hello, Rochelle and Crimes Untangled. I'm in. Welcome, my friend. Just waiting on them.
Okay.
I am like completely. Thank you. Thank you. Just got off work. I was off today. Thank goodness. Well, not because I wanted to, but the unit I'm painting was infested with fleas and I refuse to go back in till they take care of it. Oh, Jamie, I'm just going to mute you while there's banging. You just type in the chat that you're here and I'll unmute you. Because that banging is very loud. No. We started early, guys, because I don't want to miss any of it. So we started early. Had to make sure the doors were closed before the press conference. We are good now. Okay, you're unmuted now, Crimes.
Yeah, sorry about that. I just wanted to make sure that there was no extra noise during the press conference.
Yeah, because that banging it just echoes.
That's great. I have a big house.
It's very loud. I hope that guy's head is not going to be in the way the whole time. Jamie, do we know who their lawyers are right now?
You know what? Let me double check because I only know their past lawyers, Jill Lansing and Leslie. So let me check right now.
Bumble says I remodel old houses. Oh, that's amazing, Bumble. I paint houses. I'm doing a total remodel on a house that was built in 1900. Oh, those are beautiful homes. Beautiful.
Dude, have fun, buddy.
My painting business is called Fresh Look Painting. I I renamed my business after everything happened because the name stands for two things: fresh look on life for me, and a fresh look in someone's home for the customer. Mary says no proof of SA being big mistake. They're going to M's again. I disagree with you, Mary, and that's your opinion. And your opinion is yours, and you're more than welcome to it, but I disagree. As an SA survivor, I can you can't lie about that. It is a good name. I really liked it. It was prior to that. It was picture perfect painting, but that was picked by my attacker, and I had to get rid of it because here's the funny thing, guys. In Canada, even though he was found guilty, if I still ran that business, I had to pay him 50% of my earnings. And I was like, no. So I shut her down. 50% to his kiosk money. No, thank you. Oh, they're all there now. Oh, there's a lot.
Yeah, that's why I think only some are speaking, but I heard that a lot of them were gathering to rally behind the brothers. And these are family members. You would think that
Yeah.
you know, if they can stand behind these brothers,
I'm looking for I'm looking for Kitty's sister. She might be she could possibly be quite older now. Oh no, there she is. I see her. Just imagine the two things. They get out, what life is going to be like for them. Like the world has changed. The world has changed. And then imagine the family reunion they're going to have. And for Kitty's sister to be standing behind these boys, that speaks volumes to me.
Good afternoon.
Here we go,
My
guys.
name is Mark Garrigus. I, along with Cliff Gardner, represent
There we
Lyle
go.
and Eric Menendez. I also have here today Alex Kazarian, Satar Kassim is somewhere, and Tina Glavin, who have been
This will be the only time I pause. Leah, she's the lady right behind Mark Garagos in the white hair.
working for the last 18 months in order to get a
Not yet.
release for Lyle and Eric Menendez. A couple of weeks ago, and so that you understand the background of it, back in May, we filed a writ of habeas corpus. A judge in this courthouse, Judge William Ryan, issued what's called a informal request for a reply. That informal request for a reply was to ask the DA to respond to the allegations of new evidence. Part of the two prongs of new evidence were, number one, a letter that was found at Bardacano's house that was a letter written by Eric fully 8 months before the killings to his cousin Andy. His cousin Andy testified at the trial. However, in the second trial, was demeaned as making this up or was not true. This letter now shows or corroborates that Andy was telling the truth. The letter describes the abuse. The letter, I believe, was released at least temporarily by the DA's office, and anybody who wants it, we can release that as well. The other pillar of the
We want
writ
it.
of habeas corpus was a declaration by Roy Rosello. The declaration by Roy Rosello is incredibly important for a number of reasons. Number one, Roy Rosello, who was a member or a then member of the band Menudo, was and took great courage at Murray's finding him and talking to him to sign a declaration that said that he too was assaulted by um, the father, and not only assaulted, but it happened at the house. The reason that's important is that it corroborates what was testified to in trial number one, and it corroborates the fact that the safe place that Jose thought he had was in the house. It
Mhm.
corroborates what the family members said was the very uncomfortable rule in that house that you could not go down the hallway if Jose was with one of the boys. That was
Jesus
the,
Christ.
the ground upon which he prayed. We have those two items. Now, there is a separate track. About 3 months ago, we sent a petition, and mind you, the DA's office, there's been those who have said, well, this is election nearing, blah, blah, blah. We filed this, and the DA has been, Mr. Gascon's office has been engaged with us productively, strongly for well over a year. Joan, who you will hear from in about 5 minutes, we actually, because of her young age, she turns 93 next month, we had what's a very rare thing done back in December, which is called a conditional examination. It's a deposition in a criminal case to preserve her testimony. She was there with her lawyer, Brian Friedman, who represents the family. And what we are also on a parallel track doing is asking and have been asking the DA to look at the work they have done and resentence them, to support the resentencing. Now, when I say the work they have done, Lyle and Eric have started, mind you, since 2005, up until the time that Judge Ryan issued the request for an informal reply, have had no hope of ever getting out. Since 2005, they had exhausted all legal remedies. They had resigned themselves to being in prison for the rest of their lives. You could take two tracks on that. You could either just become a hardcore um, irreconcilable um, recidivist,
Mhm.
or you could do what they've done, which is create programs, counsel people, develop amazing programs, mentoring people, go to college, get degrees. Lyle, in fact, graduated from the first ever class in June. I watched it of a combination of UCI along with the Department of Corrections. The first class, Mr. Friedman and I were there, of 22 prisoners who got their BA degree while in prison. I know a bunch of them life without parole. So there is an idea that there is redemption. There is an idea with their green space project of rehabilitation. I will tell you, in over 40 years of doing this, I have never seen the amazing exemplary rehabilitation and mitigation evidence that we have now presented to the DA's office. We're going to hear from the family today briefly, and I will tell you, I'll give you kind of a coming attraction. I will start with Anna Maria. She will tell you exactly the genealogy. We have over 20 relatives, both Kitty and Jose's sides of the family. This is virtually unprecedented in my practice, and I would dare say it anywhere, that 20 family members on both sides, victims, constitutional victims under Marcy's law, are here to urge the DA to resentence. When after they're finish speaking to you today, we will then, Mr. Friedman will take them across the street to the Hall of Justice, and they will go through what Gascon does in resentencing, and they will meet with the resentencing unit. They will, under the California Constitution, Marcy's law, they will voice their opinion on why they believe it's time that these gentlemen come home. That they've spent over 35 years, and I've said it once, I've said it twice. If they were the Menendez sisters, they would not be in custody. We have evolved. It's time. And without further ado, I'm going to introduce Anna Maria, who's going to come up and speak.
Good afternoon, everyone. Buenas tardes. My name is Ana Maria Baralt. I am the niece of Jose Menendez. I stand before you today, not just as a member of the Menendez family, but as someone who believes in truth, justice, and healing. Before I get started, I just want to say that I know this is an election season, but for us, this is not a political issue. This is about truth, justice, and healing. On behalf of our whole family, it is my honor to formally introduce our new coalition, Justice for Eric and Lyle. Like so many others, I struggled to process the events of that fateful August day and the loss that I felt. Over time, it became clear that there were two other victims there on that day, my cousins Lyle and Eric. Lyle and Eric would continue to be victimized. They would be victims of a system that wouldn't hear them. And they would be victims of a culture that was not ready to listen. They would be mocked. They would be called cold-blooded killers, left to rot in jail and denied any hope of redemption. If Lyle and Eric's case were heard today, with the understanding we now have about abuse and PTSD, there is no doubt in my mind that their sentencing would have been very different. And yet, despite their circumstances, they have chosen a life of light. Without hope of release, they persevered. They have sought to better themselves and serve as a support and inspiration for survivors all over the world. Their continued incarceration serves no rehabilitative purpose. It's time to recognize the injustice they've suffered and allow them the second chance they deserve. Now here we are, both sides of the family united, sharing a new bond of hope. Hope that with the re-examination of their case, a new outcome will be reached. Hope that this 34-year nightmare will end and that we will be reunited as a family. I am here to ask the district attorney's office to take into account the full picture, the truth that was hidden for so long. Lyle and Eric deserve a chance to heal, and our family deserves a chance to heal with them. Please join us. Visit www.justiceforericandlyle.org and sign our petition. And if you'll indulge me, I have two more statements to read. The first is from my mother, 85 years old, Terry Baralt, the sister of Jose Menendez. She can't be with us today due to health challenges, but she sent me this. I'm sorry that I can't be there in person to support my nephews. Lyle and Eric. I begin chemo soon, and my doctor says no flights. I need to be strong. I wish to make it clear that I stand firmly with this family. I am Lyle's godmother, and I love them both very, very much. My nephews have spent 3 decades in prison helping others. I have seen great growth in them. Even the law enforcement supervisors and corrections have written letters to the court asking for their resentencing and release. Millions across this country agree. I implore the district attorney's office to end our prolonged suffering and release Lyle and Eric back to our family. 35 years is such a long time. My prayer is that I live long enough to see my nephews again and to hug them once more.
Oh my God.
I have another statement, and this is written by a family member of Marta Cano and Andy Cano, that Andy, the one to whom the letter was written. This is written by one of Marta's children. Thank you for giving our family the opportunity to express our thoughts during this pivotal time in Lyle and Eric's case. Our family's tragedy has always been very public and has been extensively covered by many media platforms. Marta and Andy Cano would have wanted to speak today, but unfortunately they are both unable to do so. Marta is in memory care, but she spent decades supporting Lyle and Eric. Sadly, we lost Andy shortly before his 30th birthday, and we miss him every day. Both Marta and Andy deeply loved Lyle and Eric. They both believed in justice, but they also believed in a second chances and forgiveness. It has been 35 years since this happened, and we feel enough penance has been paid. It is time for them to be released and for all of us to move on and continue healing as a family. Again, if you want to help, please join us at justiceforlyleanderic.org and sign our petition. With that, I'm going to be followed by several members of the Anderson family. First will be Alan Anderson. He's the nephew of Kitty Menendez, of Kitty Menendez. And the second will be Karen, the niece of Kitty Menendez. But first, Joan Vandermillen, sister of Kitty Menendez. Please join us.
Two soldiers. Thank you. Not very much space for paper, is there?
This is Katie,
Not even mine.
Kitty's
Yeah.
sister.
Okay. Okay. Please know that I'm nervous and full of emotions. I never thought this day would come. I am Kitty's sister. I stand here today with a heavy heart and also with hope and justice and understanding. I have received such an outpouring support in recent weeks, which led us to launch this formal initiative. For many years, I struggled with terms with what happened to my sister's family. It was a nightmare none of us could have imagined. But as details of Lyle and Eric's abuse came to light, it became clear that their actions, while tragic, were the desperate response of two boys trying to survive the unspeakable cruel of their father. As their aunt, I had no idea of the extent of the abuse they suffered at the hands of my brother-in-law. None of us did. But looking back, I can see the fear and tension that their father had instilled on them. They were just children who could have been protected and were instead brutalized in the most horrific ways. The truth is, Lyle and Eric were failed by the very people who should have protected them, by their parents, by the system, by society at large. When they stood trial, the whole world was ready to believe that the boys could be raped. Was not ready, not ready. The whole world was not ready to believe boys could be raped or that young men could be victims of sexual violence. Today we know better. We know that abuse has long lasting effects, and victims of trauma sometimes act in ways that are very difficult to understand. In the years since their conviction, society's understanding of sexual abuse and its psychological impact has grown significantly. We understand that a person doesn't need to fit a specific mold, whether it's gender or socioeconomic status, in order to experience abuse. In their case, if it were tried today, the evidence of their father's abuse would not only be admitted in court, it would provide essential context for why they acted as they did. No jury today would issue such a harsh sentence without taking their trauma into account. Lyle and Eric have already paid a heavy price, discarded by a system that failed to recognize their pain. They have grown, they have changed, and they have become better men despite everything that they've been through. It's time to give them the opportunity to live the rest of their lives free from the shadow of their past.
God
While
bless
I
you.
recognize it is election season, this isn't about us or about the politics. It's about finding the truth, delivering justice, creating space for healing. I want to thank everyone who has reached out to our family in recent days and weeks, asking how they can help. Today we have an answer. Please sign our petition at www.justiceforericandlyle.org and urge the district attorney's office, no matter who holds the DA position, to consider all the evidence, both old and new, and to bring together justice for the family. And thank you very much for listening to me. I'm sorry I'm so nervous I can't help it.
I hope she gets to hug her nephews again.
Next, we have Alan Anderson, nephew of Kitty Menendez.
Hello, and thank you everybody for being here. Hello, my name is Brian A. Anderson Jr. I am the Kitty of Menendez. I'm Kitty Menendez's nephew. I am proud to be a member of this family and to help spearhead this formal effort to organize and galvanize all the support we have received. Together, I believe we can finally bring justice for my cousins, Lyle and Eric. I've known Lyle and Eric my whole life. I can tell you without a doubt that they are not the villains they've been portrayed as. They were boys, young, scared, and abused by their father in ways no child should ever experience. You, the media, focused so much on their actions, but they never were able to tell the full story of their abuse that drove them to such desperate measures. When I think about the pain and suffering they endured, it breaks my heart to know that the system failed them so profoundly. They tried to protect themselves the only way they knew how. But instead of being seen as victims, they were vilified. Their father's abuse was dismissed, their trauma ignored, and their truth mocked by millions. Today, we know that trauma can lead to actions that, while difficult to understand, are rooted in survival. Lyle and Eric acted out of fear, but the jury never heard the full story. If their trial were held today, their father's abuse would be front and center in their defense, and I believe the outcome would be very different. Lyle and Eric are not the same people they were 35 years ago. They've shown that they are more than their past. They are survivors and deserve a chance to rebuild their lives. They are no longer a threat to society.
They weren't
Please do
before.
not misconstrue this to be political. Justice should prevail and transcend politics. I am asking the district attorney's office, regardless of who the DA is or becomes, to reconsider their case with the knowledge we now have about their abuse. Lyle and Eric deserve a second chance, a chance to heal, a chance to be free, and to live the rest of their lives without the shadow of their past hanging over them. I firmly believe that if they were to come to my house, knock on my door, I would answer that door. I would welcome them in with huge hugs. My wife would make them a dinner, and I'd give them a pillow and a place to sleep. Thank you for being here today, supporting Justice for Lyle and Eric. Please go to our website, learn the truth about their story, and sign our petition. Thank you.
Please welcome Karen Vandermullen, niece of Kitty Menendez.
Good afternoon. There's a lot of you, and I'm very nervous. Um, my name is Karen Vandermolen Copley. I am Kitty Menendez's niece, and I'm here today speaking out because I have believed for many years that the truth needs to be known about what really happened to my cousins Lyle and Eric. From the beginning, I believed Lyle and Eric were victims of their father's abuse. I grew up knowing and feeling something wasn't right. The feeling in their house and the father son interactions were just off. But it was not until the first trial that the full horror of what they had to live through came to light. My sister Diane had evidence of their abuse. That was not even allowed to be presented at the trial. I cannot help but think of how things would be different if the world had known the truth back then, or if they had been the Menendez sisters. Adults of abuse have difficulty
Yep.
getting out of their situations, and yet these were two young boys who were never allowed to make decisions on their own. They lived in constant fear and were unable to make any other decisions than the sexual violence that they were taught at the very hands of people who were supposed to love and protect them. Their sometimes misunderstood behaviors were cries for help that many of us wished we had realized and responded to far sooner. What happened is tragic, but I forgive my cousins. I have forgiven them forever because I know they were acting out of fear and desperation. These were children just 6 and 8 years old who didn't understand their own bodies. No child should ever have to endure that kind of pain. This abuse trapped them. It was painful and it terrified them. Their father's abuse shattered their lives and the family's lives, and the courts failed them, failed to recognize their trauma, compounding this tragedy. We live in a time now where we understand how abuse can shape a person's actions, male or female. We live in a time now where we understand what trauma does to the brain development of a child. If Lyle and Eric's trial happened today, the outcome would be drastically different. The evidence of their father's abuse would have been a central part of their defense, and it's very likely they would not have received such harsh sentences. Lyle and Eric have spent most of their lives in prison, paying for their actions. During that time, they have become supporters and advocates for children who have suffered sexual violence. I believe they have suffered enough. I ask the district attorneys to take into account the whole truth and nothing but the truth. I believe they have paid for their crimes, and we as a family have all suffered enough. We are here for them and ready to support Eric and Lyle after release. This is a time for truth and justice, and the time for the path to healing. It is time for Eric and Lyle to come home. We are here for them. Please visit our website and sign our petition. We would love nothing more than for our mom to be able to wrap her arms around Eric and Lyle outside prison walls before she is unable to do so. Thank you. Thank you all.
Hello, everyone. My name is Brian Friedman, and I represent the extended family members of the Menendez family. First of all, the family is gathered here in support, and really thanks everyone for coming out and for being here and for supporting one message, which is, this shouldn't happen again. And this needs to stop now. And that what needs to happen is the consideration of second chances, the consideration of the abuse, and changing what we know in our society to be wrong, and we know in our society to give people second chances. The families here united. Eric and Lyle have been through so much in 35 years, but these family members have been through so much 35 years. They're going to go across the street now. They're going to meet with the DA's office. They're going to exercise their constitutional rights under Marcy's laws to be heard and would respect and ask if they could make that journey peacefully so that they can share their truth, desires, and honesty with the DA's office. And again, thank you for the support and for being here. And Mark Garagos, thank you.
As Brian said, if we can let, especially Joe, get across, I'll answer some questions in about 2 minutes if that works. Yes.
I hope they let these people get across without.
Yeah, I'll speak to that in just 1 minute. If you wait just 2 minutes, we have stuff to talk about.
They don't care about that stuff. You hear all the reporters yelling at each other now. Sit down.
Yeah, give me 3 minutes. Just let me get Joan situated.
They maybe should have barricaded a pathway so they could have done that a lot easier.
You should have said that before. Okay, yes. No, we taught part of what Brian had referred to is under Marcy's law, the California Constitution requires that victims get a say. So the what we did is the DA's office, when they heard that we were doing the press conference, request or extended the invitation for the family to come over
Look, it's
and
Fabio.
and hear about Marcy's Law, to hear about exactly what their feelings are. I will tell you, and I said it before, that the DA's office from 18 months ago has taken this very seriously. And I say that because there are times, whether it's high profile, low profile, that I don't get the feeling that we're being heard. I get the feeling here that we have been being heard. I get the feeling that there is genuine. I think the the DA has mentioned in his remarks that there is a division in the office. I understand that. I mean, I get that, but I don't think that there should be any division when you've got a united front of this many family members. And I know somebody had asked me about one of the uh, one of the family members. I would just say I don't want to cast aspersions on anyone. All I will say is think about your own family. Do you think you could get almost unanimous support out of your own family and extended relatives for anything you do? So I'll leave it at that. Well, I think interestingly, and I don't know how you measure something like this, but I have been, obviously, I was practicing when this trial took place. I remember in 1994 representing a woman in Pomona, and we used the battered woman syndrome. And she got a voluntary manslaughter, she got probation. And I remember at the time being struck by the idea, and I've confirmed it now in the transcripts of their second trial, struck by the idea that the DA's office on the second trial took the position, and it may not have been wrong at the time, that the battered woman syndrome, that something that diminishes your intent, did not apply to child abuse. And that was on the record. And that's what the judge ruled. So, how do I think what or how has this evolved? First of all, the younger generation, I hate to say it, is that when the Ryan Murphy series came out, it was such a caricature of them that the pendulum swing, that backlash actually created a focus on it. And people then took a look. I know that I've seen some of those
Thank God for the younger
videos
generation.
of the first trial that was televised, where the DA's office was taking the position that men could not be raped, they don't have the equipment. And you've seen all kinds of arguments along those lines. That is unfathomable in today's age to people who weren't alive back then. So I think that evolution has been, frankly, seismic. I think one of the reasons that we mentioned early on and that the family has said it, they had absolutely no hope after '05. So after 2005, they didn't believe, they thought they were going to spend the rest of their life in prison. And they had resigned themselves to it. And all of the programs, I invite anybody to take a look at what's called the Green Space program that they have, the Green Space program that they have created down there, that's based on the Norwegian model, that is something that they have done in order to in order to reacclimate prisoners who are being released. I look at both the external programs that they've done and the introspection and work they've done on themselves. I use the term cautiously optimistic. I mean, there is an irony that DA politics played a role in their conviction. Well, look, I've said it before, and Joan, who you saw, her birthday is November, I want to say the 26th. She turns 93. Nothing she'd like more than to have them home for Thanksgiving.
Oh, that would be great.
That's what the question was. What do you say to the people who say they acted out of greed? I have two responses to that. Number one, that's why the letter that predates the killing from Eric to Andy is so important. Number one, it corroborates that it was happening before. Number two, people forget this probably before you were born. They went to the grand jury. The DA's office went to the grand jury on the financial motive theory. The grand jury, which will indict anybody on anything, the grand jury rejected that theory.
Exactly.
So that is another one of the urban legends.
People just don't want to hear it.
Well, I don't think that the protocol in the DA's office is anything but what we're doing today. The protocol today is that you meet with the resentencing unit, you get informed of Marcy's law, and you go from there.
Can the girl behind? This is not a show. Sit down.
I don't know. I will tell you, I've represented. Excuse me for 1 second. So I don't know that they're other than one-offs. And there's always going to be one-offs. I mean, it's the criminal justice system. It was a polarizing case. Remember, part of what happened was back in the 90s, they became a caricature. They were parodying on Saturday Night Live. I would venture to say that would not happen today. So there's it's America. There's people with diverse opinions. I just would reiterate there were two juries in trial number one back in the 90s. Two juries, one for Eric, one for Lyle. 24 jurors who deliberated. Half of them voted not guilty on murder. Half.
Mark, you need to talk with Ricardo Diaz, manager de Menudo. You need to recollect for this process. Or another Menudo talk with you.
Well, I've said before that the Menudo Declaration by Roy Rosello is important. But you combine it with, by the way, that is so that you can separate the mental gymnastics. Part of this is to overturn the conviction. The other part is that I think is unassailable, even to your question, to anybody who says, well, they shouldn't get out. The law in California is crystal clear. Resentencing, they qualify under the resentencing laws on every single factor. It's almost, I hate to say that anything's a slam dunk in the criminal law, but under the resentencing laws in California, they clearly qualify. We filed originally for the conviction to be overturned. That's what a writ of habeas corpus is. The other component of this is a resentencing. So it's two tracks. You can pause the habeas while you consider the resentencing. So it's walking and chewing gum at the same time. But if the habeas would be granted, you would get a new trial. If they are resentenced, the judge under California law has the ability to recall the sentence and sentence them to a wide range of options.
They were never a threat to society.
Correct. And in fact, I will also tell you, and we may release it tomorrow, part of the mitigation package that we presented to the DA are letters from correctional officers, high-ranking correctional officers, who attest to the phenomenal rehabilitation. We have a number of correctional officers who have actually said if released, they should be released, and that they would welcome them as neighbors in their neighborhood. I'm going to take two more questions because I want to get over there to meet with the DA as well. What? I won't speak to whether they have a plan. I just think that in order to get through each day, that you've got to just ground yourself. It's a long road from life without for almost 17 years to being hopeful. So that's, I kind of learned. One last question. Somebody, some wag, I don't know who it was, I could give him credit, said about Ryan Murphy that, of course, he's going to take credit. I didn't say it, so I don't know the man. Anyway, thank you. Thank you.
Let the man go do what he has to do, people.
All right, you guys, thank you. If you have any other questions, you can email me at holly_baird@garagos.com.
Just to confirm, Mark said there were over 30 relatives.
Yes. Yes.
Thank you.
And we will be sending out a press release along with a link to the press conference as well, and it will be in Spanish. Correct, yes.
Holly, there's those sentencing. When the family goes next door, that is not a public
What's that? Remind, say it again?
When the family's next door, sentencing, that is not public.
Correct.
We have no fees in that.
Correct. Holly_baird@garagos.com.
Okay, so. Well, that was interesting. You are when stuff bangs around you. Oh my goodness, it's loud.
I had to go back in and it.
Oh, you're loud.
Why is there? I don't know why that is going on when I lowered my damn.
Oh my goodness, it sounds like you're screaming at us.
I'm not at all. I'm actually whispering now.
That's better.
Okay. I think it's because I sat up for a second. I coughed for a second. My son sneezed. I was like, oh my goodness. And then he's in the fridge right now. But because I was muted, I told him he'd make a sandwich real quick. But anyways, yeah, I've got to move my setting into my room. I just have to get a new desk.
Yeah, because it's very, very, very loud. But so
I wanted to say one thing too
Kitty's,
about the. Go ahead.
Kitty's sister was so heartbreaking. And to know that her 94th birthday is coming up November, I think he said November 27th. Oh my goodness. They really just need to do what's right here. I'm sorry, guys. I'm just going to pull up this interview that I was watching earlier with all the family members. Let's see. Oh, I'm going to mute you until the banging's done because it is so loud. It's like echoing. Oh, tell me they took it off. That's crazy. So what is everybody's take on what we just heard? I'm interested in everybody's take on it. I'm just going to try to find this interview. Yes, very. It is very loud. I have to mute Jamie while there's banging because it's extremely loud. Extremely. They took this off. Oh, that's a shame that they took that off. I'll see if she's. Is the banging done now, Jamie?
You know what? I'm just. Can you hear me?
I can hear you. I just want to make sure the banging.
Am I screaming at you?
Well, you're loud. You're loud, but the banging, whatever's going on behind you, it's deafening to us. Like it sounds like somebody's going through a wall.
That's so crazy. I can only go to 9. I'm gonna have to. I don't know why my mic is so loud. Anyways, I think I'm gonna mute myself for a minute because he's still making a sandwich. So I'll come back when he's done.
Yep. Bumble says I didn't realize they had proof of the abuse, and that's the thing though, Bumble, right? Because I'm gonna put myself back on camera. Sorry, guys. That's the thing. the second trial was horrifically unfair. It was horrible. It wasn't a fair trial by any means. Honestly, it's like a trial in a third world country is what it represents. Like how it comes across. People, and this is just my opinion, guys. You can disagree with me all you want. And it's fine. I understand. But so many people, even myself, was hung up on the shopping spree that they went on. And the fact that inheritance, which they were written out. They were written out. And as far as they knew, they were written out. The father told them, you're no longer getting an inheritance. So to off their parents for money, well, they didn't believe there was money there. And so, and the shopping spree, to me, now that I've went into a deep dive into the case, into everything that I could possibly read, was, in my opinion, a big FU to their dad. Was like, you son of a B, you put us through this our whole entire life. It was a big FU, in my opinion. And Jamie's opinion is that, there was no money. In their mind, there was no money. So they've taken the money that was allotted to them, put it in materialistic things. That way, down the road, they could sell those things and survive. So there's two ways of looking at it.
I also think that in that aspect, them doing that, I don't think that their brains were mature enough in the world of looking at the fact that just because they were doing it on material things, that those material things couldn't be ripped away from them because of how they gained them, if that makes sense. So they weren't thinking about everything. They were just going at whatever speed they were going, trying to make sure that they were going to be okay. And again, I don't think that the crime is excused. They did murder. I just think that they've done their time.
Absolutely. They did murder.
When it comes to, what was it? Hold on. They were raised in the music business, not that one. There was a comment up here that I just want, it was kind of bothering me. They need new luxury cars and homes. I'm sure, I think you replied to that one. Now, whatever happens next will be reality shows and stuff like that. I think that when it comes, unless they, I know what it was. Somebody said she said that they'll come out and murder again. And I said, unless as I always say, unless they have other set of parents who are doing the same thing to them, this is not a crime that's going to happen again. This is what we talked about earlier. It's not like they were just going and murdering random people or murdering people for senseless acts. I mean, again, murder's not, I'm not excusing murder, but it's not a crime that's going to happen again. They don't have another second pair of parents.
Well, and that's the thing. And my opinion, they weren't a danger to society from the beginning. They were.
But I'll tell you this: had Jose continued, how many more boys would he have victimized?
Well, exactly. How many more is there that hasn't come out? That's all I'm saying. It's just Jane, what a week for justice. Jane, absolutely. It definitely is. And now you could hear by Garrigo saying, like, it's a political year, blah, blah, blah. That's going to be the next line. This is only happening because it's a political year. It's, when these guys get out, and I got to try to stop calling them boys because they're not. They are older than me. Not by much, but they are. The world will see the real Menendez brothers. Because if they would have been nurtured properly and hadn't went through the abuse that they did, I have no doubt in my mind they would have been really, really good people. Really good people. Because there's no way you spend 35 years in prison and not get in trouble once. It just doesn't happen. People that have a lifetime of prison without a chance of parole, they have nothing to lose in there. There's nothing that anybody could take from them. And these two don't even have one strike against them. Not one. It's really, really confusing to me as an SA victim. And I will say it again. I myself did not put the same weight towards a male victim as I do a female victim. And I am sickened by that. And that will never happen again. And the Menendez brothers woke me up to that I was a one-sided victim advocate, and not again. Not again. Because this does happen to males. This happens to young boys. It happens to strong males that people will say, oh, you're a man, you should have been able to do this or that. You know what? Until you get put in that headspace, you don't know. So
Well, when it starts when you're like 6 and 8 years old, you're not technically you can't defend yourself against a man. But then on top of that, you have it starting, and then you're groomed, and then it continues and continues and continues. And in the letter that was written 8 months before the murders happened, he literally said that it's still happening. He can't, at night, he doesn't know when his dad's going to come into the room. Now he's 18 or 19 years old, and it's still freaking happening. But at that time, you've been groomed. You've been put into a mindset to where it's like, where do you go? What do you do? What? Because if it was a woman, we wouldn't say that.
Nope. And like his aunt said, and I've said it, if this was the Menendez sisters, it'd be a different story. And that's sad to say, but it is true. It would have been a different story. And that's just that. Like I'm actually shocked the press conference went as long as it did. I'm glad that the ones that could speak and wanted to speak definitely spoke. But and unfortunately, there was that interview that I wanted to go over, but NBC LA took it off. And they just had it on. Yeah, I think so too. Right, Bumble? Yeah, it's sad. And and listen, you're not going to hear from me the younger generation because sometimes they just make my head spin. But if it wasn't for, and I am not promoting the monsters, I am absolutely not, because I think it is just a little bit of A and a little bit of B in it, and you really have to. Now, did it make me go down the rabbit hole? Yes, it did. Thank goodness for that. But the monsters on Netflix got the younger generation saying, hey, this ain't right.
So, Rachel, did I tell you about the Adnan Syed case?
No.
Do you know the name?
No. Does it have anything to do with the Menendez?
I'm going to explain. So, because of what we're talking about with the Netflix thing, and it's really quick. You know me, I like to go quick. Anyways, he was convicted of murdering his girlfriend back in the late 80s, early 90s, I think it was. Serial did a podcast on that case, and that case got reopened. He was released, and then now he's back in, and he's doing all that stuff. So my point is that with these things coming out with that podcast and Netflix and stuff like that, it's bringing that whole new light to cases that most people have forgotten or most people didn't know because younger generations and stuff like that, not everybody knows about these cases. So I will give the monsters only enough credit to say that they brought light back to this case.
No,
But
exactly.
other
But
stuff, yeah,
that
I was
that
agreeing with you.
yeah, that case that you just brought up though could get weaponized in other people's hands, saying, "Oh well, if he got released and then he ended up back in
No,
jail, well,
no,
that's
no,
what I'm saying is the case you
Rochelle,
just
he went back in not because he did something wrong. He went back in because of a technicality. And so now they're going through the thing. It wasn't because he did something wrong. It was a technicality on how he
okay,
was let out. So
okay,
sorry.
no, that's okay. I just wanted to clear that
No.
because
Yeah.
retractors could weaponize that case. So I just wanted to clear that up. Bumble
Yeah.
says, "Where's the coffee crew? A lot of regulars are missing.
Go ahead, Rochelle.
A lot of regulars don't agree with my stance on this, and that's fine. I I appreciate their sides, but they don't agree with my stance on believing in the Menendez brothers." Sorry, Jamie, you were saying something?
Oh no, I was just saying that when it comes to the regulars, I was like, go ahead, Rochelle. That's all.
Yeah. Yeah, they just don't believe in the stance, and they just don't feel like debating it, and I get that. So I understand.
It's
And
not a topic everybody it's not a topic everybody's comfortable with. I mean, even today in the world we live in today, a lot of people are still not comfortable with talking with males in that situation, being essayed and stuff like that. It's just it's not a comfortable topic for most people. So it's hard, but it's an important conversation.
it's absolutely very important. And even if you take the Menendez brothers out, they started this conversation. This is what started this conversation. For me, the main part of this conversation is getting out of our stereotypical side of our brain that thinks men can't be victims. And I want to bring light to that. Men 100% can be a victim. And I'm owning my position where, not that I don't believe men can be victims, but in this case, I was looking at all the stereotypical or stereotyping that was being done in this case. They came from a rich family, poor rich kids. Oh look, they spent mommy and daddy's money after they off them. Like I was caught in that. And if I can see my mistakes in that, if I can be honest that that's how I was thinking and come on here publicly and say, shame on me. That's all I'm asking people to do is actually look into the case, look into things. Don't just watch what I call CNN and Fox, because the truth, they have their own truths, right? Each one, we all know they're either for or against. They don't play the devil's
I'm muting
advocate
myself real
ever.
quick. Sorry.
Yeah, they don't play the devil's advocate ever. You got to go down that middle lane and you got to dig deeper for this case. And that's guys, that's all I'm saying. I'm not telling people how to believe. I don't want to do that. But at the same time, I want people to respect that I have a voice also, and that if I feel that it's the truth, if I feel it's the truth when I speak, and I say this all the time, you know when you're telling the truth, you know when you're speaking a truth because you feel it. There's a feeling towards the truth, and I feel that. So that's my truth that I'm feeling, and that's why I'm speaking out about it. I have nothing in this I get nothing out of speaking about this. As you can see, I have less people in my lives, all of that. So I'm not getting anything out of this whatsoever, except for knowing that I'm owning the fact that I didn't support men the same way as I support women. And I'm making those changes in myself because men deserve the same amount of respect as women get when it comes to SA. Boys, young boys, men. You know, there's even men that are in old age homes that this is happening to. Nurses are taking advantage of them and they're unable to speak. They're unable to protect themselves. So this happens every day. But as a society, we decide that it can't happen to men. And that's just not right. It can. And as much shame as I carry for being an SA victim, I can only imagine how much shame a man carries, especially if they can't speak out about it. So I do thank everyone that came to watch this. I will keep an eye on it. I will definitely, hopefully, will be able to see those men now. For some reason, I still call them boys. And they're older than me. I don't know why. Hopefully we'll get to see them walk out. And I don't doubt that they're going to do amazing things. I don't doubt it. I think the stuff that they've done okay. Welcome to the channel. Will they have a new trial? I don't understand English. Could you please tell me if yes or no? Maybe. And I'm sorry, what language do you speak? Something has to put a stop to abusers getting away with abusing children and adults. Leah, 100%. Portuguese. Let me see if I can, 1 second. I'm trying to help everybody. Hold on. Brazil. Okay, hold on.
I don't speak Portuguese.
That's okay. I'm gonna pull up.
I'm sorry.
Hold on. I'm just gonna pull up 1 second. I'm gonna pull up a Portuguese translator. I'm gonna enter text.
You pound on your keyboard.
I'm just gonna try to translate for our new friend. Portuguese.
I was only saying that because I don't type that fast.
Let me see if it'll let me copy. Look at that. Look at Crime and Coffee go.
It lets you copy paste it, huh? I think that I honestly believe, as I was telling you earlier.
You're loud again.
How? It's my mic. I keep fixing it and it goes loud again. I was saying, what I was telling you earlier is I have a feeling that it won't go to a retrial. They'll have come to an agreement between the prosecution and the defense.
I agree with the not coming to a retrial. For the fact is, it's going to cost a lot more money. A lot more money to put on a retrial. And I think being an election season, they're not going to want to put that money out. So, Ty says, thank you very much. You are very attentive. So I'm just going to do this because I'd like to be nice to people. There we go. And, but yeah, Leah, it's never something we're ever going to get rid of, right? But what we can get rid of is our prejudice. Our prejudice towards people that have money. We think, oh, well, they're just whining, they're spoiled, they're this, they're that. Our prejudice towards men being too masculine. Just because they're masculine doesn't mean they can't get assaulted. So that's what I'm trying to bring in this little community, at least. I think if people could just sit and be honest with themselves, and either way they come out, if they come out against or for, if they can just be honest, like I had to be, like I called Jamie and I was like, Jamie, oh my God, I can't believe I did this. Like, I cannot believe I did this, because I had to go within and recognize what I was doing. And that's all. You can't lead people and tell them what to think, and nor would I ever do that. But that was my downfall, and I recognized it. And because I'm a big believer in owning your own shit, I could have kept it to myself. But I thought, no, I'm going to go on there and speak to my faults. Ty says it wasn't the right thing they did, but in the face of such brutality, they were innocent children. They spent their lives being abused.
Absolutely.
Absolutely.
Where do you find your way out as a child?
You just don't. You just don't. You really just don't. And not only that, and yes, people say, well, they weren't children when it happened. Okay, but they were in that headspace from a child. They were abused. Like, okay, guys, Lyle admitted to what he did to Eric on the trial, the first trial. No way would he admit to something that he didn't do. So horrible as that. And the fact is that he said, like, his dad showed him love that way, so he was showing Eric love that way. He thought that was love. That speaks volumes to me. Volumes. And for the first time, and Eric said it, he never said sorry. That was the first time he ever said sorry. And you can see that it devastated both of them.
It was a painful to watch. But on top of that, you have the fact that Eric, to this day, fought also alongside his brother to try to be reunited. So even he realized that they were both victims in it. And yes, Lyle did something that he shouldn't have done, but he was a child when he did it. And you know, he was.
Yeah.
It's so hard to explain because they're men now. They were children when that incident happened. They were children when the incident with their father started. It's such a
Well, and see, that's where people
complex.
will come out and correct us. They were children when it started. They were young adults while it was still going on.
Exactly. Yeah.
So people say, well, they weren't children at 18 and 19. No, they were young adults, but they were still stuck in that child mind because it never stopped. It never stopped. Leah says, yes, I feel the same way, but if abusers don't get away and have to pay the price, then hopefully victims will be able to come forward to report abuse. Yes, that makes sense. It makes sense, Leah, because as a victim myself, I was afraid. Okay, I'm going to tell you this. I first off, let me finish this. I was afraid I wouldn't be believed. And I will give an example of that. 2 weeks prior to what happened, this person was removed from my home. I was asked to go into the police station and give a report. I knew that if I didn't go into that police station, he would be getting out free. I thought if I went into that police station, they were going to hold him, which they do not. The officer, which was a male officer, and I wish at that time it would have been a female officer, was starting to ask all these personal questions about things that would go on in my home. And then he had said, has he ever made you have relations against your will? I'll never forget this moment. And now, because they showed me the video, the minute he asked that question, I did this. I hung my head in shame because I didn't think because we were in a relationship, I was going to be believed. And that's where things need to change. Because it wasn't the first time he essayed me. There was many essays. But it was the first time that I almost did not live. It was the first time I was held as a hostage. So I really didn't think I was going to be believed. And as you can see, I don't know if you can see, all this here is scar tissue. This is all scar tissue. That's why my eye looks like it's higher up here, because this is all scar tissue. Like when I say I was brutalized, I was brutalized. But, and you're right. He got away in the beginning because I was afraid I wouldn't be believed. They let him out 2 weeks later. This is what happened. So I think there needs to be a stiffer penalty towards abusers. Not like mine, right? He should be in there longer. He should be in there longer. But I just it Leah says, I'm so sorry you had to endure the abuse. I'm so glad you broke free. I tell you, I'm glad I did too. There's still times I look back and think, how? How? So I could just imagine what those boys were thinking. And from what I went through is not even a drop in a bucket that those boys went through. They went through that from 6 to 19. Now, Lyle, less time than Eric. But I'm saying 6 to 19. I can't even imagine how they lived in here. I don't even know how they did it. Because there's days I can't live in here and the abuse has stopped. Just don't know. And yep. all abusers. I think if our society came down harder on people that are abusing people, I think that things would change. Ty says, in addition to the abuse, what we know here is that the father didn't give them anything. The mother, who was supposed to protect them, didn't do it. They had nothing. They, I'm just going to say this again because you're exactly right. I'm trying to respond in Portuguese too because it's only fair. You're, you're absolutely right. Being much longer until he's too old to hurt anyone else. No, unfortunately, a no. Like I said, it was only a couple weeks ago he was supposed to be released. He got in trouble, so he can now go again to the parole board in January. So he won't be in much longer because once his full sentence is done, he walks out. And part of me is wondering if that's what his plan is, because if he comes out now, he has to be on parole for a year. If he finishes his whole sentence, he just walks out. No parole, no nothing. Except for, part of me, he will be on the SA list for
For which one?
25
Sorry.
for my crime.
Oh, okay. Sorry.
He will be on the SA list for 25 years. But if he finishes his whole sentence without getting paroled early, then he doesn't have to answer to anybody. He doesn't have to tell anybody where he's living. He doesn't have to do any of that. Yeah, this needs to change, rightly it does. And it's worldwide. Like, Canada is very lax on crime. I will say that. It's horrible here. But there's a difference between the US and Canada, and people don't understand. Our prisons are provincial or federal. They're owned and ran by government. We don't have publicly owned prisons here. Provincials are jails. Federals are prison. So it's not privately owned. So people aren't making money. Costs the government. So the government don't like keeping people in prison if they don't have to, because it costs the government money. In the United States, where they're publicly owned, they're making money. So they don't care if people get out. They're making money. That's the difference here. That's the difference on why we're so lax. But again, is there people that are in there that shouldn't be, even in the United States? I agree. Even if they are freed, I believe they will still carry this in their heads for the rest of their lives and what little life they have left.
Emotionally, it's devastated them. This has destroyed their lives. So no matter if they were to have gotten out 10 years ago, if they were to get out 20 years from now, that's never going to leave them. That's just stuck. My trauma's stuck. Your trauma's stuck. Trauma doesn't go away. It's not something you just wake up and it's like, oh, the trauma's gone. It's always there.
Yeah, it's always there, but it's what they do with it that's going to matter. It's never going to, like, I honestly believe, and some people don't, but I honestly believe when they come out, they are going to make an amazing contribution for victims. And I think that for a fact. I think you're going to give it a year, you're going to see them doing speaking engagements. They're going to become advocates out here. Yeah, it is. It's so wrong. It truly is. It's what I think. I think I don't like. They're not going to go on spending sprees. They got no money. They got nothing. Jane, see you at 6C and C crew. Thank you very much for covering this, Rochelle. You're welcome, Jane. Thank you for joining. That being said, guys, I'm going to end this stream because I have another one starting at 6. And we're going to be talking about Sarah Boone.
Yay. Right. So I know I didn't talk much today, but we were more on the press conference, and that was more important than anything I was going to have to say, anyways.
Okay.
So thank you for having me, Rochelle.
I'm just going to answer this. I'm just going to. It's weird. I'm trying to respond in English and in Portuguese, but it's only right. It's only right to do. So that being said, and yeah, Jamie, like, is there any final thing that you want to say?
I think that because I'm not here to change anybody's mind, I just want people to look at the information. And if they do change their mind, that's great. If not, then I'm not mad at you. That's your opinion. For anybody who does agree with it, go to the www.ericandlyleforjustice.org.
No, justice.
Justice for. Sorry, go ahead. Because
Justice for ericandlyle.org.
Yeah. Go to www.justiceforericandlyle.org and sign it. And hopefully, again, I don't see these boys or these men now committing another crime because they don't have another set of parents that abuse them. And I think that they've done their time. And that's pretty much all I have to say today. I was touched by Kitty's sister. I was actually tearing up when she spoke. So.
Me too. And you know what? I don't think they were. I don't think they were even a danger to society prior to this. The crime was not on society. The crime was on the parents because of the abuse they were going through. So when people say, oh, they're a threat to society, they weren't a threat to society back then.
No.
Hello, Jibs and Jabs. Hello, Jibs. We're just finishing up on the Menendez press conference. I'm going to be jumping over to do Sarah Boone here in a minute because we've got half an hour till that. But that's what we were watching, Jibs. And so, everyone, I do appreciate you. I'm not sure if I'm going to say your name right, Ty, so I'm just going to say Ty. Thank you for jumping in. I'm sorry I don't speak your language, but I definitely tried by bringing up a translator. So, welcome.
Hi, Jibs.
And
thank you, Rochelle.
You're welcome. Thanks for joining me for this. We will both be keeping our eye on any upcoming events when it comes to the Menendez brothers. And
yes.
So,
we'll see where it goes.
I was hoping for good news today, but that's for hope.
Yeah, that's what court's going to be for, right?
Yeah.
So we'll see it then. Hopefully we'll see it then, and we'll keep following it.
Yep.
I'm sure you'll call me and scream at me about something else, some other case.
No, so. I was just screaming at. I was screaming at myself.
Well, I know, but it was really loud when I had a migraine. So, thank you for this, Rochelle. Thank you, everybody.
You've paid me back with your banging.
I know. Well, there you go. Okay. Have a good day. I'll see you in a little bit on the next one. So, I'll be there.
Oh, Rochelle, with all due respect, Charlie killed Dan. You can't say he's not a danger. No, Charlie.
He is.
No, God, no. I'm not talking about Charlie at all, Jibs.
No, he is. Oh, that is a terrible piece of crap.
Charlie is a danger to society. Charlie is absolutely a danger because He didn't even, it's not that he pulled the gun. He planned this. He went behind people's backs and he organized a hit. No, God, no. I'm not saying Charlie is not a danger to society. Absolutely not. Charlie is absolutely a danger to society. His whole family is a danger to society, in my opinion, because they disregard society and rules and all of that. So, oh God, no, Jibs. I agree with you. Charlie is a danger to society. We weren't even talking Adelsons at all. We were talking the Menendez brothers. But on that note, I do have to say goodbye because I
All right,
have to
take
get
care.
ready. Have to get ready for Sarah Boone. What a day.
Bye.
Okay. Okay. Bye, everyone. Thank you for joining us for the press conference. And again, we will keep our ears open for any new news on this and we'll gather back up. Thanks, everyone. See you in about a half an hour.